Namaskar. In today's session, we are going to discuss about the development communication and reporting refugee and migration challenges. Development communication in reporting refugee and migration challenges is the global rise in forced displacement and migration has made the accurate and responsible reporting of refugee experiences more critical than ever. In this context, development communication offers a powerful approach that prioritizes inclusion, dialogue, and ethical storytelling. By integrating participatory methods and people centered reporting, development communication helps shift the narrative from victims to agents of change, fostering empathy, understanding, and sustainable solutions. First of all, we have to understand the term refugee. Article 1, Para 2 of the 1951 United Nations Convention defines refugee as a person who, owing to well founded fear of being persecuted for reasons of race, religion, nationality, membership of a particular social group, or political opinion, is outside the country of his nationality and is unable or owing to such fear, unwilling to avail himself of the protection of that country is called refugee. There are four well-defined groups of foreigners who are different from refugees. These categories must be understood by our media community or communicators and scholars. What are the categories? Those are not refugee, they are temporary resident, tourist, and travelers. Person under this category came to India for a specific purpose and duration with the prior permission of the government of India. However, in certain circumstances, anyone in this category could become eligible for being a refugee if during their sojourn in India, the situation in their country of origin becomes such as to endanger their lives and liberty if they were to return to their country. Illegal economic migrants. Any foreigner who might have left his or her country of origin without due authorization from the authorities concerned, both in the country of origin as well as the country of destination, solely to improve his or her economic prospects, is not a refugee. After all, there is no element of persecution or coercion compelling the individual to leave the country of origin. Criminals, spies, infiltrators, and militants, etc. None of these can ever become eligible to be refugee. They have to be dealt with under the provisions of Indian criminal laws as well as any other special law in force, even though some of them may be in possession of valid travel documents. And IDP. What are IDP? Internally displaced persons. Those persons who are fleeing persecution and human rights violations from one region of the country and have sought refuge in another region of the same country fall under this category. Such persons cannot be categorized as refugee as they have not crossed any international border. Moreover, they have the protection of their national government. These persons are categorized as the internally displaced persons. India, with its long borders and historical ties to various regions, has a complex relationship with refugees and migrants. Unlike many Western countries, India is not a signatory of the 1951 Refugee Convention or its 1967 Protocol. That means there is no specific national refugee law in India. Instead, the treatment of refugee and asylum seekers largely relies on ad hoc policies, executive orders, and the Foreigner Act of 1946, which gives the government broad powers to regulate the entry, stay, and departure of foreigners. This lack of comprehensive legal framework creates an uneven landscape where the status of right of different refugee group can vary significantly. Key aspect of the Indian context. First of all, historical hospitality versus current policy. Historically, India has been a welcoming host to various displaced population like Tibetan refugees and Sri Lankan Tamils. However, in recent decades, with increased concern about national security, resource strain, and illegal immigration policies have become more restrictive. Distinction between refugee and illegal immigrants. Without a refugee law, there's often little distinction made between those genuinely fleeing persecution, refugee, asylum seekers, and economic migrants who either without proper documentation. This can lead to vulnerable being categorized as illegal and facing detention or deportation. Diverse refugee population. India hosts a variety of refugee groups. First is Tibetans, a significant and relatively well integrated community largely managed directly by the Indian government with a Tibetan refugee certificate. Sri Lankan Tamils may arrived during the Sri Lanka Civil War, primarily residing in the government run camps in Tamil Nadu. Their status is often considered economic migrants by the government, though may fled persecution. Rohingyas from Myanmar, a highly vulnerable Muslim minority facing severe persecution in Myanmar. They are registered with UNHCR in India, but their legal status is precarious, with the Indian government often labeling them illegal immigrants and expressing intent for deportation. Afghans, a smaller but long standing community, often registered with UNHCR, often smaller groups from various neighboring countries or conflict zones. And now we are going to understand about the internal migration. India also experiences massive internal migration, largely driven by economic factors, rural urban migration for work, and seasonal migration also, and sometimes by the displacement due to the natural disaster or conflicts like ethnic strife in the northeast, displacement due to development projects. While not refugee in the international sense, these internally displaced persons or IDPs face similar humanitarian challenges. Citizenship Amendment Act 2019 CAA. This law grants a path to Indian citizenship for religious minorities, excluding Muslim, who fled persecution from Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Afghanistan and arrived in India before 2014. Before management and security concern, India's long porous borders present challenges for security and managing inflows of people. Concern about cross-border terrorism and national security often shape the government approach to migration. How to cover refugee and migration issues in media? Emphasize the human element. Focus on individual stories. Beyond statistics, tell the stories of refugees and migrants. Who are they? What are their hopes, fears, and struggles? Use interviews, personal anecdotes, and visual storytelling to bring their experience to life. You have to cover various stakeholders of the issues. Show, don't just tell. Visuals are critical in broadcast. Show their living conditions. If you are a publisher, you are producing newspaper or magazine, photograph has utmost importance. Show their living conditions, their journeys, their efforts to rebuild lives. Use accurate and sensitive terminology. Refugee, asylum seeker, migrant, displaced person. Understand the legal distinction and use the term accurately. Refugee, someone who has fled their country due to the well-founded fear. Asylum seeker, someone who has applied for protection as a refugee but whose claim has not yet been determined. Migrant, a broader term for someone moving from one place to another, often for economic reasons or better opportunities. And IDP, internally displaced person, someone forced to flee their home but remains within their own country's borders. Avoid dehumanizing language. Never use terms like illegal alien, swarm, influx, or tide. These terms strip individuals of their dignity and fuel xenophobia. Use undocumented migrant instead of illegal immigrant when referring to those without proper papers. Contextualize numbers. If reporting on numbers, explain what they represent and what human stories lie behind them. Provide context and nuance. Root cause. First of all, you have to check the root cause, explain why people are forced to leave their homes. Conflicts, persecution, climate change, maybe economical hardship. And what are the legal framework? Explain India's non-signatory status to the Refugee Convention and its implications. Challenges for the host communities. Acknowledge the potential strain on the resources and services in the host communities, but also highlight successful integration stories. Government policies versus humanitarian imperative. It's very important to discuss the tension between the national security or borders control concern and humanitarian duty to protect vulnerable populations. Multifaceted perspectives are also important, which include voices from refugee or migrants, host communities, government officials, international aid agencies, human rights activists, and legal experts. Ethical consideration for broadcast or any media platform. Safety and production is the utmost important. Prioritize the safety of interviewees. Obtain informed consent. Ensure they understand how their story will be used or broadcast, and if necessary, protect their identity, especially in if they fear, reprisal. Fact checking is another important point. Verify all information, especially claims made by the various stakeholders. And impartiality. Present a balanced view, avoiding sensationalism or taking sides. You have to be balanced in your reporting. Ethical consideration for broadcast also covers solutions-oriented reporting. You have to give the solution. What government and or international agencies are provided, what kind of solution are being provided, and what kind of aids, what kind of food, or ration, or water and all medicines. While highlighting challenges, also report on effort to find solutions. Successful integration and positive contributions of refugees oblique migrants. Avoid poverty porn. Uh, uh, do not exploit suffering for dramatic effect. Maintain respect and dignity. Ethical consideration also covers long-term follow-up. Refugee and migrant stories are not one of the event. Follow up on individuals and communities to show the long-term impact and journey. Visual storytelling is another important issue for media point of view. Use compelling visuals, B-roll, interviews, graphic that convey emotions and context without being exploitative. And soundscapes, use ambient sound and natural sound to immerse the audience. And what are the production technique for this? Expert interview are the important. Feature academicians, legal experts, and agency representatives to provide deeper analysis. Graphics and maps clearly illustrate migration routes, origins, and destinations. Interactive segments. For digital platforms, consider question answer session with experts, polls, or user generated content with careful moderation. Agencies covering refugee and migration issues. UNHCR, United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. As India is not a signatory of the to the 1951 Refugee Convention, UNHCR's role is crucial for non-neighboring country refugees and asylum seekers and Rohingyas from Myanmar. UNHCR conducts refugee status determination, RSD for these groups, issues them refugee cards and provides limited assistance and protection. They advocate the stronger legal frameworks and durable solutions. They work closely with the government of India and other partners. IOM, International Organization for Migration. IOM focuses on all aspects of migration, including regular migration, labor migration, counter trafficking, and migration health. They work with the Indian government on policy development, capacity building for safe and orderly migration, and protecting the right of migrants, especially those in the vulnerable situations. They are less focused on refugee status determination, but cover the broader spectrum of human mobility. UNICEF is another important agency, and UNICEF's role in India is, while not exclusively focused on refugees, UNICEF addresses the needs of vulnerable children, including child refugees and migrant children, ensuring their access to education, healthcare, and protection from exploitation. ILO, International Labour Organization. And ILO's role in India works on promoting decent work for all, including migrant workers. They advocate for labor rights, fair recruitment practices, and social protection for migrant workers. Now, we are discussing about the media coverage preparations. So, preparation is the key. And first of all, you have to research well, deeply understand the specific refugee migrant group you are covering, their origin, reasons for displacement, legal status in India, and unique challenges they have. You have to research well, you have to read research papers, you have to search good quality research paper from internet, some reports from UN agencies or WHO or other institutions involved in the crisis. As good as you read all the documents, you have to collect the data and various definition, various priorities, various crisis reports. Then only you have to create your script for your program or for your writing. Terminology. Create a glossary of terms and ensure consistent, sensitive usage. You have to consider lot of scientific and technical terminology. You have to understand the terms first. First, you have to understand, then you will communicate to your audience. So, another important point is context. Under which context you are going to write, or you are going to publish, or you are going to broadcast. Be aware of the political, social, and economic sensitivities surrounding migration in India. And safety is another important issue. Plan for your own safety and the safety of your crew, especially in sensitive areas or during emergencies. Always under your safety issues, always you plan actually in two parts, plan A or plan B or plan C. If in case in the ground zero you have some safety concerns, safety issues, you can go for plan B. You can just take visual from that ground, and you have to shift to other place with your some other vehicle. So, safety is another concern for yourself and your crew members. And building trust and access. And what are the gatekeepers? Identify key community leaders, NGO workers, and government legends or legionary officers who can help you gain access and build trust. Right? You have to check with various ministries, departments, various activists, and various leaders related to that issue. And you have to record their interviews, their viewpoints. Patience. Gaining trust takes time. Don't rush interviews or expert immediate access to sensitive stories. First of all, build your relation. Send your questionnaire. Request them to answer. Request them to reply. So, at suitable, convenient time, visit to expert place and record them. So, be patient, and transparency. Be upfront about your intentions, the purpose of your story, and how the information will be used. So, transparency is another important aspect. Interviewing technique, active listening is very important. You have to be active listener, not passive listener. Listen attentively and empathetically. Open-ended questions encourage detailed responses and personal narratives, and try to gel with victims, a life condition, to get best out of that. Avoid leading questions. Don't put words in their mouth. So be careful and avoid the leading questions. Trauma informed approach. Be aware that interviewees may have experienced trauma. Avoid re traumatizing them. Be prepared for emotional response. Offer breaks and support if needed. Always obtain explicit, informed consent for interviews, filming, and photography. Explain their right to refuse or to stop at any time. And visual and audio is the utmost, important in any media. Dignified portrayal, contextual shots. Avoid paparazzi style, and sound quality must be better. So this is all about on the reporting aspect of refugee and migration point of view under the development communication. Thank you for your listening. Namaskar.